Hi there, Prairie Plant Girl here. Today I thought I would talk to you about African violets. I had a request, I believe it was Angie and Ambrose from Garden Obsessions, that had asked about my African violet and just wondered if I had any information about growing them, I guess. So I thought I'd do this quick video, and this pot actually has two that are growing together. They've gone further than they should have like this, and so I've purchased some new pots, and I thought in doing this video I would take the time and move them over into their own pots. So I'll get the camera set up and we'll get started. So African violets are a plant that originally comes from Kenya and Tanzania, that type of area. So really a tropical zone. But what makes them a nice house plant is that they are actually grown on the mountains there. That's where you find them. So they're used to being up in a little bit of a more temperate area, you know, and protected from the hot sun by overhead plants. And they also have, I don't know if we can focus on this, but they have like a real thick fuzzy leaf. So it's fuzzy top and bottom, almost velvety. So that helps to hold some moisture, I think, and just to protect them a little bit. Now the thing with the fuzzy leaves, I don't know if you can see that, they collect a lot of dirt and debris anytime you work with them. So I actually keep a little baby brush. You maybe have seen this in my succulent videos, but it works good to clean the leaves off without damaging them, because their leaves are easily damaged. Another thing that they like is they like a pot that is wider than it is tall. They don't need a deep root space. So they're quite happy with a short pot that's nice and wide for them. So that's what I've picked up here. I just grabbed some pots from the dollar store. And you can actually see, if you look here, like these snips go almost all the way across, they just barely stick out. But height-wise, it's quite a bit less. So that's an ideal pot for this type of a plant. I also find that nice bright indirect light is the best lighting for these plants. Or if you're growing them under grow lights, I think you can see here, see I have a grow light there, and it's about a foot and a half, I don't know, 30 to 50 centimeters above the plants. They don't need it right down on them. A lot of plants under lights, you know, want the lights really close. These don't need that. If you're growing them just in a nice bright spot in your house, just make sure it's not getting like that direct bright hot sun on it, because they'll wilt. They won't be happy in that. Another thing I found, if you want to keep them flowering, is when they get to be older flowers like this, if you just follow that flower stem back. Now these ones aren't real bad yet. There's one not bad one on there, but if you follow that flower stem back inside the plant and snip it off, once the flowers have gotten older, these could have gone another week probably or so, but once they get older and you snip them off like that, they tend to send out more flower shoots. Whereas if you let the old flowers stay on the plant and shrivel up, dry out, I find that they quite often will stop flowering then. So that's one of the things that I've learned over the years to do to try and help keep the flowers going. Now since I'm going to be transplanting these, I'm just going to take these other flowers off too. I always think it's nice to let the plants, you know, worry about getting their roots settled in more than keeping the flowers going when I'm moving plants around. I'm gonna try and loosen the soil and just lift these out if I can. So there, you can see, like, they don't have a huge root system for such a showy plant. These have been in here for at least a year now. And it's not that they're unhealthy, that's just how they are. So that's why they don't need a super deep pot. If you get a super deep pot on them, then they tend to get waterlogged because you're watering them too much. They just want a nice even moisture. Even this one here is a little bit on the wetter side than I would have liked. So to that point, when you water them, you can give them a little drink, but then you should drain off any extra water. They will get these little kind of shriveled up stems on them, and you just pull those off. Now this is actually the same plant, if you can see that. They're growing out of the stem comes off the same set of roots, so I'm going to try and split that. Hopefully save roots on both of them. I'm just going to cut right through the middle. Try and get the leaves pulled apart here. Get them apart. So here there's another kind of dried out leaf in the middle you can take off. Now, once you get too many rows of leaves on an African violet, it starts to kind of lose its appeal. And they get loose like this. So I'm actually going to go around and just pull some of these bottom ones off. Now, I've never tried it, but if you follow Deborah Christmas, or if you don't, you should go check her channel out. She has been propagating African violets through leaf cuttings. So check her channel out and see how she's doing that. For the soil, a nice fast draining soil is ideal. So once again, I've pulled out the perlite and I've cut my potting mix almost in half with it. These plants do not like to sit in soggy soil. Think of a mountain grown plant, right? The water comes through, it runs right through. It's not sticking around. So that's what they want. They want a nice drink, but they want the water to keep on moving past their roots and away. I think that's probably where most people would run into trouble with these, is just over loving them with water. They really don't want a lot of water to drink. So I'm going to take this. It just has a few little roots on here, and I've pruned it back very severely. Might even go one more row. Now, ideally at this size, I would have had a smaller pot. I wasn't planning on taking it back that far, but the rule of thumb is kind of the leaves should be coming out past the edge of the pot with an African violet. That gives them the right size for what they like, and it looks the most attractive. I'm just gonna tamp that soil down a little bit. A little more in there. Pop this guy in there. Now I'm covering up the stem where I pulled all those leaves off, and it should grow out some roots from there. So there, that's that one. So it looks a little sad right now, but as it grows and fills in, you get that nice rosette of leaves around there, and throw out some flowers. The leaves grow out from the middle. Starts new, I don't know if you can see the new leaves coming in at the middle there. But that's where it'll grow out from, so it'll fill in around the edges. So let's have a look at this one. So you do need to go through once in a while and just groom them out. Find any yellowing or drying leaves, just pull them out. Don't be afraid to do that. This one's a little bit tighter looking, has one kind of funky leaf there. This can happen. These leaves, you can see they have some damage to them, and that can happen from watering or getting bleached by too harsh of light. But the best way to water is to water from below, or definitely below the leaves if you're watering on top of the container, just to keep the water off of them. Now these two were growing so tightly in the pot, I maybe wasn't doing a good enough job of that. This one seems like it's gotten some water damage, but it'll be all right. So we'll get it potted up. The watering schedule will depend on, you know, the humidity in your home and how much they're flowering and growing and that, but I usually go in every probably 2 weeks and water mine. And I actually don't fertilize them very often. I've put a little bit of worm castings in this soil, and if they do seem like they're, you know, just not doing as well, and I've determined that it's not the lighting and it's not, you know, under or over watering, then I will just give them a little bit of all-purpose fertilizer. They don't need one, like you might think, oh, because they're such a pretty flowering plant, that they need, you know, fertilizer for heavy blooms, but they don't really need that. Just a nice balanced all-purpose fertilizer is plenty for these guys. I don't find them to be heavy feeders. You'll see some sites that say, oh, fertilize them every watering with half strength or something, but I don't find that necessary. No. This is purely for aesthetics, but I'm just going to go in with a little bit of sand and chop dress these. It will help if you have problem with like fungus gnats. Putting a little layer of sand on top of your houseplants can help to keep them at bay, because they won't want to go. They need to go down into the damp soil. That's what they're looking for. That's where they lay their eggs and complete their life cycle that way. So if they have a little bit of sand on there, the sand dries out quickly and they won't want in there. So I'm just gonna brush off any dirt or sand or anything that I got on the leaves. Another thing that I'll do sometimes when I'm wanting to water them is sometimes, instead of giving them a drink with the watering can, I will just set an ice cube or two on top of the soil. Now you have to be careful doing that because you don't want it to touch the leaves. But if you can sneak an ice cube or two in there like once or twice a week, for some people that might be a better way to water, because it's going to give them a nice small amount, consistent amount of watering without, you know, overdoing it. And for those of us that tend to be heavy-handed with the watering can, sometimes that can be the best way, is to just use something like that, something really pre-measured. You know, it slowly melts and soaks in. And sometimes I find if I'm getting a little heavy with the watering on my plants, that's something that I'll do. So there, we've got two nice new plants all potted up, separated from one another. And got a lot of leaves there, so I'm going to go back to Deborah Christmas's channel there and review what to do to try and get those started. I've never done that. I'm really not sure. I'm going to check back with her, and then I think I'll give that a little try, see if I can get even more of these. But I'd say African violets, you know, are pretty easy house plants. They just, you know, they want your attention, but they don't want to be overloved. So if you just find them a nice spot in a, you know, average room temperature room with a nice bright indirect light, and just a moderate amount of water. Make sure they're never sitting in water. Good, well-draining soil. Keep them groomed up, like I said. Just cut off those spent blooms and any of the drying up, or if you have a little bit too much moisture, you'll get a little bit of rotting off of the stems. Just cut those off at the base, and you can have them for years. They can last for a very long time. I never take these. This is probably the one houseplant I never take outside. I'm sure you could, but they just are so happy and healthy in the house that I've never felt the need to take them out and give them that summer air outside. So if you haven't tried an African violet, give it a try. They're a nice, easy plant. They give you some nice bright cherry blooms, and I think they're worth the minimal effort that they ask for. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, then what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. Tap the bell if you want to get notifications of when my next videos are up. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.